What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know.
All right, the safeties, man. This is the one that I'm super excited to get into right here. Yeah, and Big Fridge is gonna love this one. He's gonna love this one because I got a name on the list. I've been talking junk about my boy from Wake Forest, and he's on the list. And he came in and shut me up, and I love it. I love every little bit of it. Now here we go. Top 5 safeties. We'll start from the back, man. Derwin James, no bias here. Derwin James is probably the best in the box, ball hawk in the back kind of safety. He does everything good. I just think him having to be an anchor and carry that team all the time on defense, especially in the air. When I love Asante Samuel Jr., that's my other Florida State brother, but you know, the only reason why Derwin James fell on my list is because of the team that the Chargers had last year. That's it. There's no other. I mean, there's no other biases here. It's just strictly that. Minkah Fitzpatrick. People talk about T.J. Watt and the rest of those guys all the time, and he still doesn't get the love that he deserves. Doesn't have the stats because he's doing all the dirty work. There was 2 plays against the Eagles. Was it last year or before? Where A.J. Brown caught 2 touchdowns on him, but he was the last line of defense, and he didn't predict the ball the right way, and he ended up just falling a little bit sooner, which was trying to save the Pittsburgh Steelers because their corners were not as good. I don't know, man. Minkah Fitzpatrick does everything he can. He's everywhere. He's the only Steelers jersey that I currently own right now, and for good reason. When my wife asks me which one you want, I say Minkah Fitzpatrick. And that's the one I got, man. Outside of George Pickens, I'll be getting his next. And then the guy that proved me wrong, and I love this. I love being wrong because I get to talk about how I was wrong and how he performed. Jesse Bates went to the Falcons, okay? And people were like, wow, he went to the Falcons. You know, he's kind of been up and down, especially the last 2 years. And then he went to the Falcons, had 6 interceptions and 11 passes defended. 3rd in interceptions in the whole league. 89 solo tackles, which was 9th. 3 forced fumbles, tied for 11th. And this dude is not a linebacker. The best part of the Falcons defense last year was Jesse Bates.
Yep.
So you have to put him on the list. Kyle Hamilton. There was one person that said that this dude didn't have a frame to play safety. And boy, oh boy, has this dude been eating crow or not eating crow and not being right about this. If you had the pleasure to watch him in Notre Dame, I said that there was going to be 2 generational players that came out of that class. Kyle Hamilton, and the other one was Derek Stingley Jr., which if he would have stayed healthy the whole year, he would have been up there as a top 3 corner. Just go look at the stats that Derek Stingley Jr. had with the Texans. I've been on point with Kyle Hamilton. The only reason he's not number 1, the only reason, because he deserves to be number 1. By how he's been performing the last 2 years for the Baltimore Ravens. Actually, there's 2 reasons. Because the Ravens defense was so good as a whole, and I cannot give you all the credit in the world, but I have to. If you watch Kyle Hamilton, he is what, like, when you build on Madden the perfect safety, he's that. There's no other way to slice it. Antoine Winfield had a freaking incredible year, and he's been really, really good. He's the only safety on this list that not only statistically, but when you watch him on film, that got better and better and better and better every single year. He anchors that team. When his teammates are getting older, it seems like he's getting younger. I don't know, man. Everything that his dad was and then some. You can say that about Asante Samuel Jr. You can say that about Pat Surtain. All those dudes are in the same era, and their sons might be better than them. And he's better than his dad right now. There's no questions asked. The dude is a bona fide best safety in the league right now. And Kyle Hamilton, really, it's 1A and 1B. Pick your poison. I mean, really and truly, who do you want on your team more? I just couldn't give Kyle the edge just because of the team that he's on. That's pretty much it. But Antoine Winfield is, spoiler alert, he's the other player that we had with a perfect score. So expect to see his name number 1 on all of our list. Just as a refresher, the perfect scores before we get into Hayden and Khalid's list. As a refresher, Patrick Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Antoine Winfield, and Chris Jones. Those were all of our perfect scores this year. As the number 1 guy, the bona fide, we all had him in our number 1 spot. Hayden has Antoine Winfield, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Kyle Hamilton, Derwin James, and Jesse Bates. Now, I want to call his bluff. Because he entered the transfer portal on his own guy. He had Xavier McKinney up here instead of Jesse Bates. But then he wanted to switch Jesse Bates at the last moment. But that's okay. That's okay.
That is okay, because I got him covered.
No, look at now. Hayden's gonna be kicking himself now. He's gonna be kicking himself
So do I.
the head.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I had to have Jesse Bates on there though, so I'll say that I can have both. But starting from the top with Antoine Winfield, I mean, he's a perfect combination of everything that you could want in a safety. He can do it all. Similar to how we were talking about George Kittle, and that he's a receiving threat and a great blocking tight end, right? He's complete.
Yep.
So is Winfield as a safety. Whether you want him, blitzing in the box, near the line of scrimmage, or you want him deep, whether it's single high or with another safety back there, he can do it all in coverage, tackling, close to the line of scrimmage, rushing the quarterback. You name it, Winfield's your guy. Not to mention he brings, a lot of these players do, but he brings a fire to that defense that with aging stars in Tampa, he needs to bring, especially after Devin White kind of flamed out at linebacker there. Winfield had to step up and be a leader. You have guys like, Shaq Barrett had that one good year, but Levante David, those guys, like Winfield seems to be the new leader of this defense, and that's also something that is invaluable, because that's a part of the game, but it can't be quantified like tackles or interceptions or sacks or pressures can be. So he is the complete safety in this league right now. Number 2, Jesse Bates. A lot of people kind of questioned the move for him to Atlanta, especially after he didn't get the contract he wanted in Cincinnati. And I mean, he had an incredible year, with the forced turnovers, the tackles, just being everywhere for that Atlanta defense. I mean, you even said it. He was easily their best player on that side of the ball. And given how Arthur Smith kind of destroyed his own offense with all those playmakers, the defense had to be good. Otherwise, they were not winning a single game. And so Bates was a big part of that. If they don't sign Bates, they could have easily went out with the first pick overall in the draft. So I think that was not only a very important signing, he is invaluable to that Atlanta defense. And if they can build around him, actually invest in the defense, not just drafting more skill position players on offense, Atlanta could be really solid in the next couple of years here.
Yep.
Xavier McKinney, he wasn't great. He was solid in his first few years in the league. And, in a contract year, he goes out there and puts out easily his best year as a pro. He was racking up tackles, and not to mention, he massively improved in coverage. So 2 years ago, right, he put up 5 interceptions, but was a liability when it came to giving up yardage, right? So he had a nose for the football, but he was getting picked on. The next year, which was last year, I'm pretty sure he didn't have a single interception, but he did improve at limiting opponent yardage. This past year, he put that all together. So it was a perfect mesh. He had 3 interceptions, much better on the yards, yards per attempt when, he was the closest defender. And Xavier McKinney also was very reliable as a tackler. He had one of the lowest missed tackle percentages out of any qualifying safety, which, I mean, if you've played 20% of, the maximum amount of snaps you could, he only missed 5.7% of his tackles, which is far better than even some of these guys on this list who, again, are elite players. McKinney was reliable. He earned that contract with the Packers. And, again, he's going to be surrounded by probably even better players than he had around him in New York. So it's very possible that he could see another career year. And Kyle Hamilton, there were, like you said, so many haters, so many doubters, and he shut them all down. He's played incredibly, and his ability to rush the passer, similar to Antoine Winfield, is something that it brings a whole new dimension to a defense, right? There are certain players who kind of specialize in that. Like I know Jamal Adams kind of got like toasted with the nickname Blitz Boy because that's all he could do, right?
That boy's been cooked ever since the Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Like he's earned that name because he was great at blitzing, right? Good at getting after the quarterback. But when you're a safety, you have to be able to cover. You have to be able to defend the run. Yep. And Hamilton is able to do that. He's younger. He's still got immense potential, and he's on a loaded defense in Baltimore. But Hamilton's shown that he deserves to be in the conversation for one of the best safeties in the league. And then Jevon Holland, I feel like he's a very underrated player.
Man, this is one we didn't even have on our list, but like, talk about it, man.
Yeah,
he's good, man. He's good.
The Miami defenses these last few years, even when Brian Flores was their head coach, right? Between Flores and Fangio's defenses, Holland's been used pretty similarly because both of them have liked to have one safety playing closer to the line of scrimmage, and that's generally been Brandon Jones because he's not great in coverage, but he can get after the quarterback. Holland has been that guy who's generally, the single high safety in a cover 3 look, and he's excelled at it. Now, granted, this past year, he had some injuries.
What you know about cover 3 looks? Hold
up. Hey, I know some stuff. Come on.
I know.
And in Holland, he's very rangy. He's making plays on the football, and not to mention the rest of that Miami secondary was pretty suspect. So he was asked to do a lot. Kind of like you were explaining with 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗂 Fitzpatrick, right? He not only did he take the blame and was on, probably you just got mossed on that play from AJ Brown had on him in the end zone, but like Holland takes a lot of crap for the output of that secondary when in reality he's the one carrying it. Mm-hmm. I mean, PFF has him graded as the number 3 safety this past year. So what they're seeing, they like in him. But again, 7.8% missed tackle percentage. So he's a secure tackler, and he's also productive on the football. 3 touchdowns this season with an interception and 3 PBUs. So he's a playmaker. So I had to include him on this list, give the Dolphins some love, because I feel like Holland often gets overlooked among safeties.
Great analysis. Respect for Jevon Holland.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of good safeties. To be honest, man, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. This is probably the best group of players in football consistently every single year. Outside of tight ends, we constantly had the same guys on the list, or guys that have fallen off and new guys have stepped up on the list because they've been getting better every single year. I don't even know if I had Antoine Winfield on my list last year. And it wasn't just, it's just because other guys are better than him. But, like Kyle Hamilton's been on our list for 2 years, I feel like. Derwin James, Minkah Fitzpatrick, those guys are constantly on the list. But, yeah, Jevon Holland has been an anchor for that defense. I know a lot of people go to Jalen Ramsey when Xavier Howard was there, but he deserves a lot of that respect, man. He deserves a lot of, and he's got to go against some speedy guys in practice all the time. So it's going to force him to be.
Yeah, he gets worked by the best every day, and no 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝗀𝘂𝘀𝗀 Howard anymore. So,
well, 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀 wasn't a burner; he was a ball hawk, but
yeah, but also
he might be the
like,
most underrated or overrated
right,
in the league.
He hasn't played well, and he also hasn't been available much the last couple of years. So
𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀's one of those dudes that get like 3 interceptions in a game, and then the next week get burnt for like 200 yards, and you're like, what the hell happened? I don't know. That's why he ain't being picked up by anybody right now outside of his personal issues. It's just nobody wants to take that chance. You already have Trayvon Diggs who's cleaned that up, but got hurt last year. So, but he might be 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝘀 2.0. Shout out to Trayvon. There you go, Don. Hit us with it, man.
I'll start from the top down, and as we know, it's everybody's number one, Antoine Winfield. He is the Buccaneers' Swiss Army knife in their secondary. He spent most of his time in 2022 playing the slot, and then shifted more towards the traditional free safety in 2023. And that ability to make himself more versatile, it made an impact against the run and keeping the slot duties on the table. He is really, really improved. Former second-round pick, really filled up the stat sheet last year, leading the league with 6 forced fumbles, adding 3 interceptions, first team All-Pro honor. The 6 sacks led all safeties. And while his 20 quarterback pressures qualified as the second most as well. Tampa used the franchise tag on him in the offseason. 4-year, $84.1 million. He's now the highest paid safety and one of the highest paid defensive backs in history.
Yeah.
Deserving.
Let me hold something, man. Let me get some of that. Let me get some of that money you got.
Number 2, not just because I have the jersey, Kyle Hamilton. He has developed into one of the most dynamic defenders, fulfilling the promise that made him the 14th overall pick in 2022 in the draft. He joined Winfield as first team All-Pro and has the same sort of versatility as Winfield. He played 465 snaps in the slot, 301 as a free safety, and 236 in the box. He contributed in every possible way for the Ravens. Now, obviously, the Ravens lost their defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, and key pieces like, 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝘀𝘀 Clowney, Patrick Queen, Geno Stone, who was a ball hawk last year. But now Hamilton's flexibility could be even more critical with the new guy calling the plays. So anxious to see how this season goes for him.
Yeah.
And my sister will be happy on this. Yes, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I did get a Steeler in there. He's coming off kind of a lower productive season, but that's mainly due to the injuries he had last season. He had a lot of things, a hamstring injury, a chest contusion, a knee bruise. And provided he stays healthy next year and at age 27, I think he's going to return to, being elite. It's got a nose for the football. His coverage consistency is elite. He's got length, range, and a trigger to cover serious ground in the back end. Not afraid to come forward, not afraid to hit. Great all-around player. Jesse Bates. Yes, after 5 excellent years with the Bengals, he joined the Falcons. And what did he do? He put up the best campaign of his career. He registered more ball production than ever before.
Shut me up. He said, "Shut up, man." He put me in a headlock, gave me a noogie.
Yep. He finished second among safeties with 6 interceptions, one of which he returned for a touchdown. When he's able to play that single high role, that's when he is more impressive than any other type. He gets to sit back, read the quarterback's intention, goes after the roots, defending the post. Now, Atlanta's changing their coordinators in 2024, but I think Bates is going to finish well and fit well in any defensive system. My number 5 came down to a few different players, but I found one stat that I really liked here for Xavier McKinney. That's why I put him there.
Okay.
I definitely think he's going to be an upgrade for the Packers. He played the best football of his career, spending time deep in the box and manning the slot while playing over 1,000 defensive snaps. He allowed the 5th lowest passer rating, 52.1, among safeties with at least 200 coverage snaps.
Why didn't the Giants keep him?
They're a poorly managed franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get later. Yeah, we're gonna get to it later, but it's like you make. I don't know, man.
To coin a phrase from the Jaguars, it's an organizational failure.
Oh man, I can't wait. Thanks, Don, for that. Stores list: Antoine Winfield, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Kyle Hamilton, Derwin James, and Talanoa Hufanga.
Nice.
I respect that.
Yep.
He was hurt for most of this past year, was he? Or all of it, was he not?
I would love to hear his thoughts on this. Yeah, I would love to hear his thoughts. I don't hate most of his list, but Jesse Bates one is like, that's always the one I was scratching.
Yeah.
The dude was incredible. But hey, everybody's got the reasons he's not here to defend himself, but he's in the comments. So
yep.
All right, so the ECG list went like this: Antoine Winfield, number 1, perfect score. Kyle Hamilton, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James, and Jesse Bates.
That works.
That's solid. Solid, man. Solid like a rock. Don knows that song.
Yep.
All right.
Maybe McKinney would have had a chance if Hayden put him on his list, but
he might have, but
yeah.
I don't think so because Jesse Bates had higher scores overall too. So Source said, "Stay mad, don't care. I got my reasons." Again, he's not here to defend himself. You know what I'm saying?